Hello and welcome to Writers Chat. We are the weekly writer show of Serious Writer. I'm Brandy Bro and I'm here with my co-hosts Jan Martin and Melissa Stroh. And today we have a special guest that Jan is going to introduce for us, and I'm so excited to be here with him. He's going to talk about LinkedIn. Jan, will you please introduce our special guest today?
Yes, it's Tom Blubaugh. He's married to Barbara Holmes. They have 6 children and 14 grandchildren. He spent his childhood in a small town in southeast Kansas. Tom began writing poetry at age 14. He has written nonfiction most of his adult life. Tom self-published Behind the Scenes of the Bus Ministry in 1974, has written articles for denominational and business magazines from 1975 to 1995. Co-wrote The Great Adventure under contract for Barber Publishing Company in 2009, wrote his first fiction, Night of the Cossack, published by Bound by Faith Publishers in 2011, and is a guest writer in several books. He has been a public speaker for 40 years. Tom was self-employed financial planner from 1973 to 1995. He is the past president and past board of directors member of Jericho Commission Incorporated, is the past chaplain of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 952 in Springfield, Missouri, and is the past manager moderator of the Google Plus Christian Authors Community, CEO of Common Sense Marketing Strategies, LLC, Tom Blubaugh Literary Strategist, LLC, Authors Community, ebookchristian.com, and Genesis Project International. He ministers to the homeless and addicts through his life experiences and blog articles. We're glad you came back to share more of your knowledge with us. Thank you, Tom.
Yes, welcome, Tom. Go ahead.
Thank you. Boy, that introduction needs to be shortened a little bit. But I am going on 80, so I have had a pretty full life. And Jan is the only person, no, there's 2 people in all the time that I've been working on the internet, I believe, that I have met in person, which is very interesting, because I've heard a lot of ministers and others say that you can't develop strong relationships on the internet, but that is not correct. And so I'm going to be talking about that this morning, about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, to me, the most professional social media platform on the internet. And there's 750 million people there now. It's owned by Microsoft. And actually, I guess I do have kind of a presentation, but it would be LinkedIn Group plus LinkedIn Messenger plus HubSpot CRM equals readership. So I'm going to tell you how that works. First and foremost, LinkedIn, I believe, is the only platform, at least that I'm aware of, that allows you to have the email address of your followers or your connections. And they did come out a while back telling people that if they didn't want their email given out, basically do nothing. And so now when you download the information from LinkedIn into a spreadsheet, you can get everything in the world except the email address. And I told LinkedIn you did that backwards, because you should have said that if they, however I said that, anyway, tell them to leave it alone if they want the email shown, and or whatever. But anyway, they did it backwards. And so even though people have email addresses in their contact information, you won't get it in a spreadsheet. So that's where a CRM comes in. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. HubSpot is free. It's HUBSPOT. If you don't have that, I highly recommend that you have it, that you get it if you're going to deal with LinkedIn and the email addresses, because there is no guarantee that LinkedIn will be on there forever, or Facebook or anybody else. And if you don't, excuse me, if you don't capture that information for yourself, it may go bye-bye someday. And that would be a tragedy. Would be for me, because I have nearly 20,000 connections on LinkedIn, and I don't want to lose a one of them unless it's my choice. Okay, LinkedIn group. Why would you want to have a LinkedIn group? I have one, Christian Authors Community. You can join it on LinkedIn if you'd like. I am very tenacious about my rules on that group. I have spent a lot of time, because I didn't build that by myself. One of my partners did, and she's retired now. But it kind of got abused in the process. When I mean abused, there are a lot of people in there who are not Christian authors. They like the idea of being in there with close to 4,000 members, mainly authors that they can kind of fleece. And so I have been spending a lot of time going one by one through 3,700 people and weeding out those that don't belong there. One thing that I don't allow in the group is authors saying, buy my book, authors saying, here's my blog, authors saying, I want to edit your book. It's all about authors helping authors be better authors. And if it's any post does not fit in that boundary, then it never sees the light of day. And I recommend that you be as strict about your own group if you start one as I am about mine, because there are some very serious people. I realize that you can go on Facebook and other places and join groups, and all you get is buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. And my philosophy about this is, if there's 10,000 authors on there and you want them to buy your book, you're going to advertise it, please be prepared to buy 9,999 other books, because it's not fair for you to try to sell yours and they don't get to sell theirs. And so that's kind of a rule. And I think it's very important, because it's like preaching to the choir. Yes, authors are readers, and yes, they want to read books, but they don't want to see your book every week, 52 weeks a year. They just don't. It's a way to alienate yourself from the other members of the group over long term. Okay, so what I do on LinkedIn is a very strong strategy that basically I've been following since 1969, probably before any of you were born. And the first year in sales, I realized that I wasn't going to sell anything to anybody. That's not really how it's supposed to work. I figured out very early that what I was supposed to do was present myself to the best of my ability, and whatever I have to offer, lay it out in an intelligent way, and then let them make the decision whether they want it or not. And when I started doing that, I was told, you can't build a business like that. You've got to try to close people 10 times. You have to twist their arm. You know, you got to keep asking, why aren't you buying? And I said, no, I don't have to do that, and I won't do that. And I was a success for many, many, many years doing what I do on LinkedIn. So number one, if you start a group on LinkedIn, it's very easy. You can do it in less than 10 minutes. You can set up your rules and everything else that you need to do. number two, LinkedIn has the option in your group that you can invite your connections to join your group. And so what you do is just simply pull up their name, and then you click invite, and LinkedIn sends them the invitation. And I get about an 85% positive response on people that I invite to come into my community. Okay, the ones who don't come in, I really don't want in there, because I only want people who are interested in what I have to offer. And I would much rather speak to 10 people who are seriously interested in what I have to say than 100,000 people who don't care. And so most of us on the internet, though, we speak to that 100,000 people who don't care. But with LinkedIn, it's a way to bring in only those who do care. So keep that in mind. The 20,000 that I have connections on LinkedIn are not all people that I've developed a relationship yet. But because I came out of the old school day, when the way I got customers is I picked up a phone book and I just closed my eyes and pointed to somebody's name, and then I had their phone number, and I called them, and in 2 or 3 minutes tried to give them enough information about me that they would invite me to come into their home, sit down at their kitchen table, and have them get out their checkbook, and I go through it with them. That was hard work. So when the internet came along, all of a sudden I saw a way to gather thousands of people in one place, and then I could kind of fish. You know, Jesus says, be fishers of men. Well, I think we can be fishers of men in business and women. So I thought, wow, you know, and I racked up 20,000 people. Quality? Absolutely not. But here I am, and I don't know how long I've been on LinkedIn, but I am working through those 20,000 people. And it's hard work deleting the ones that I brought in that don't fit what I'm looking for today. Okay. So that brings up an important point. Just like what you need for your book is a target audience, you need a target audience for your LinkedIn group. Okay. Now, LinkedIn has a fantastic search engine. It works like kind of like Google, but what you can do is you can type in that search box Christian authors, sci-fi authors. You can type in sci-fi readers, Christian readers. Now, when you do that, it's going to bring up a lot of people named Christian. Okay. Of course, we know that doesn't mean they are Christian, but so you have some things mixed in there, but LinkedIn wants you to develop a strong following. Okay, that's their platform. They make money, yes, but they don't charge me anything for what I do. Everything I do is free. I invest as little dollars as I can in what I'm doing, but I invest a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of knowledge in what I'm doing. And the old saying that time is money, that's exactly right. But the thing that we have to realize as authors, and I'm going to sound a lot like a preacher as we go through this, is that, if I didn't lose my train of thought already, and that happens to me quite often, but quality is more important than quantity, okay? We're kind of like Jesus looking for lost sheep. We're looking for people who needs to hear the message that I have written in my book, okay? So number one, you really need to get in touch with your writing. And I'm saying that because a lot of authors aren't. They wrote a story, just kind of like I wrote Night of the Cossack, and it was published in 2011. I just wrote a book about my grandfather, who was a Jew and a Cossack soldier in Ukraine, who defected and came to the United States. He died a year before I was born. I knew very little about him. And so what I want to do is create a grandfather for myself, because both my grandfathers died before I was born, and one for my children, grandchildren, and Jan. We're going to be great grandparents in January for the first time. So we're pretty excited about that. But I never really intended for that book to be published. But a guy that I knew had started a small publishing company, and he saw on my website the first chapter of that book, and he wanted to publish it. So I agreed to let him do it. And it was really interesting because he printed 10,000 copies of that book, 10,000 copies. He didn't know that on the average, an author sells less than 350 books because they don't get out of their comfort zone. That's the reason that the number is so low. So anyway, I now have 7,000 books in my garage that he gave me when he went out of business. And psychologically, I have not been able to take them to the city dump yet, but I'll get there eventually because I've revised that book and now those books are dated and, you know, but the story I want to tell you is that an English teacher who read that book contacted me and said, Tom, can I write a lesson plan for your book? I said, excuse me? She said, I would like to write a lesson plan for reluctant readers, kids who don't like to read, because your book is great for reluctant readers. I said, I didn't have any idea, but that's great because I was one of those when I was a teenager. I was the kind of guy that if I got an assignment from the teacher to do a book review, I quickly grabbed the book and read the first and last paragraph in each chapter and wrote the review. And she never knew the difference because most of us, the beginning verse or the beginning paragraph and the ending paragraph in any book or article or chapter or whatever gives the most information, and the rest is just kind of filling in from point A to point Z. So if you don't think that's right, check that out with some books. So anyway, long story short is that your book has specific things that maybe you didn't even realize when you were writing that fiction or romance or whatever you write, that are very important points that need to be shared with your readership. It's not just a book. Well, how do you do that? Okay, you can do it through a website, but in a website, you only have 7 seconds to capture somebody's attention when they see it for the first time. And if your website is not what they call sticky, and it doesn't have calls to actions, and you don't tell them specifically, click here, click there, whatever, they're gone. And if your bounce rate is over 50%, then Google assumes that you don't have anything worthwhile on your website to say, and it will actually slow down the people who see your site. Unlike a group where you're inviting people specifically into the group and you're making them a captive audience. Okay, so keep that in mind. You're building your own captive audience. Now, LinkedIn Messenger is not like Facebook Messenger. LinkedIn Messenger, when I send somebody a message in LinkedIn Messenger, I'm pretty much assured that 75% of the time it's going to be read. And probably 60% of the time, there's going to be a response. And what I do is I engage people in a conversation long enough, and I start out this way. How are you doing? What are you writing about? What problems are you facing? Nothing about me. I'm just engaging in them in conversation. and I'm looking for one thing, a comment, a question, or something that tells me they need to talk about this. Like I got a message from a lady yesterday from a letter that I sent, that I send to all the people in the community, that said, my biggest problem is fear. She said, I write in fear. I do social media in fear. She said, it wears me out. I don't know what to do about it. I said, I can help you. I understand fear, and I can share with you how I overcame fear. And so now I've got a very quality person who has told me what they need, and I know how to fill that need. That's what you're looking for in a LinkedIn group. You may have a writer that joins and says, gee, you had a great chapter in chapter 19 of your book. I wish you'd write a whole book on that. Okay, well, all right. So maybe I need to put that out in the group. I'm thinking about writing a book on this topic. Input, please. Okay, now you're hearing from people who are readers. And during that time, some future time, I'll just say a year, you're going to decide there's enough people who want to hear that. And you can pretty much count on, for every one person who says, yes, I'd like to hear it, there's probably 9 others that don't say it. So if you have 100 people say, yes, I want to have that book, you can figure there's 1,000 people that are silently saying, that's what I want. Okay, am I making sense?
Yes,
Okay,
you are.
any
Yep.
any questions at this point?
I have a couple of questions. You mentioned about not losing your contacts, and I'm wondering how you use your contacts on LinkedIn specifically. You talked a little bit about groups and connecting with people. I'm trying to just translate the LinkedIn platform in integrating into how we run our business as authors.
Okay, rephrase that just a little bit.
So how do you use your connections on LinkedIn? A lot of us connect with people on LinkedIn and then they just sit there. We don't do
Okay.
anything with them.
Okay, this is
What
where
should we be doing?
this is where HubSpot comes in. And actually HubSpot would be a whole different presentation. Okay. But I will tell you this, that in HubSpot, you can put the information in there. Is that person an author? Are they a reader? Are they a website designer? Are they an illustrator? Are they a substantive editor? Are they an advertising person? And you can categorize all these people in that. So then if you decide, well, I would like to target young adult readers. Okay, so then you can tell HubSpot, I want a listing of all of the people in my connections that I have in HubSpot who are young adult readers. And then you're going to have a list of those people and their email addresses so that you can specifically target them with something that will interest them. And that's like using a .22 rifle versus a shotgun. Okay, a shotgun, you may reach some people, but most people you're not going to reach. But if you directly aim at that target market, then you're going to get a much higher percentage of response. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so that's what I do. And so I look for people who are influencers. Okay, then I go to them and say, okay, you know a lot of people. You're an influencer. How can we connect so that I can influence for you and you can influence for me? Okay, that's a whole different deal. You can't do this kind of stuff with Facebook or Instagram or any of the others, but you can with LinkedIn. Okay, so the question that you have to ask yourself, am I going to do the shotgun approach on Facebook? Or am I going to get on something where I can really zero in on specific people?
Yes.
As a business person, you need to do the latter.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, so when I say that I look for people who are Christian authors in my Christian author community, but let's say that one isn't, but they're a dean of a Bible college. Like I ran across one here in Canada a while back that I have brought on board with me, because I'm telling him that if you want me to talk to the future authors in your college about writing, Christian writing and stuff, I can do that by Zoom or whatever and reach out to a whole lot more people. Okay. So you see where my mind's going is I'm never looking at instant gratification. I'm always looking at long term. Okay. If I live 5 more years, will this person be a contact at that time and be involved with me?
Yes. that
That's
makes
how I
sense.
build my online Christian authors community. So this is the basis of doing a group. And so I have to be honest and say that if if you are a person who's in love with the idea of being an author, but you don't want to, it's like wanting to be a farmer, but you don't want to plant any seeds in your ground. You might even buy the equipment and spend the money to do it, but you really don't want to plant seed and harvest because it's more work than you want to do. A lot of people are authors that are like that. I love to write. I love the idea of being an author, but I really don't want to do what Tom's talking about this morning to build an audience. And I understand that. But if that's your situation, own it. Look in the mirror and say, yes, that's who I am. So I'm going to quit telling people I'm an author. I'm going to tell them I'm a writer. And I'm thinking about being an author. It's LinkedIn group is like the difference in going to a craft show with your book and trying to sell your book to people who are looking for quilts and doilies and tablecloths and all that kind of stuff, and hoping that out of that huge crowd, boy, look at all these people, maybe I can get 100 to buy my book, as opposed to going to a book fair and spending a couple of $100 and talking to people who actually are looking for good books. Which leads me to Goodreads. Goodreads is a platform every author should be on, but it is the least social media driven site because they're the exact opposite of LinkedIn. They don't allow you to talk to people one-on-one. They don't allow you to promote and that kind of thing, you know, and they want your book on there because Amazon now owns them. But LinkedIn is entirely different. We want you to build the audience. That's why we have given you free these millions of dollars worth of tools that we put out there to do this. And so if we don't use it, then we gotta, wow, maybe we're just not serious.
Hmm.
Am I saying that if you don't get on LinkedIn and do this, you're not a serious writer? Not at all. But I'm saying, I'm speaking to those of you who really want to sell books long-term. You want people to really hear what you're saying, and you want to develop a quality church around you. Because it is like a church. It's like building a church. Okay, any other questions at this point?
We have, can you talk a minute about building your profile in an effective manner? I'm looking at my profile and I know I have some old things on there and I'm wondering how much should I weed out? Should I include the old copy editing job I had back in 2009 on there, or should I get rid of it because it's too old? How updated do you want your information and how can you best use your skills and what you've done and to put on your profile?
It's a great question. On my profile, I have everything I've ever done. that I want people to know about. I don't want them to know I was a convicted felon when I was 15 and that I stole somebody's car. So I'm not going to say experienced car thief, you know, but I've been saved since then, folks. So I was saved when I was 28. But what I'm trying to say is that your copy editing is telling other people that because you're a copy editor, more than likely your book is well edited. Okay. And that's important to people. It is to me. I hated English when I was a kid, but I was reading a book last night and I had to reread the sentence 5 times and I never did understand what the writer was trying to tell me. And there was a time when I would have just closed that book and put it aside. But I thought, no, that's just a fluke. You know, I'm not going to judge this book on one thing, but there are people who do. Okay. If you want to see, and I've studied this a lot, if you want to go to my LinkedIn profile, Tom Blubaugh, and see how I've done my profile, that's how I'd recommend that you do it. Because you'll see I very specifically lay out, this is what I do, this is why I do it, this is how I do it, da 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 da. And then there's all the other stuff. Yes, I'm an author and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not looking for readers at this point. I'm looking for Christian authors that I can help get their message out into the world based on Matthew 24:14.
So you
Okay.
really target your experience based on what you're looking for out of the platform.
Yes.
Excellent.
One of the things that drives me crazy is that I would say probably 70% of the people in my Christian authors group, I have to hunt for something that says I teach Sunday school, I go to church, whatever, that gives me some kind of a hint that they are a Christian author. I made a mistake the other day. A lady I've been connected with for 5 or 6 years, she has her name at Angel Network. I thought, okay. The other day I said, are you a Christian writer? I invited you to my group, but you didn't join. She said, Tom, I didn't because I'm not a Christian. And so I went back to her and I said, well, this is a little awkward for me because I made an assumption based on your domain name that you are. I'm sorry if I've offended you, you know, and she came back and she said, no problem at all. Because I didn't want to leave her with, oh, you're not a Christian. Okay, bye, see ya. That's the end of it. Because I might be the only Christian she ever talked to. And she said, boy, they're not very nice.
Great.
So yeah, but please put on there, if you're looking for Christian readers, I am a Christian author. This is a genre I write. These are the books that I have out. You know, give them that information. And that prompts them to want to connect with you. I just don't understand it when there's some people I come away that they're a Christian author. I see their books on Amazon, but there is absolutely nothing in their profile that gives me a hint that they are a Christian author. So anyway, long answer to a short question.
Sophia asked in the question, are you targeting nonfiction authors specifically? If the Christian is an author who writes fiction, does the fiction need to be targeting a Christian audience or contain material that is explicitly from a Christian viewpoint?
No, it doesn't. And I'm trying to make this clear to people. And I don't have that in my profile. But I am interested in family-friendly literature. Okay, that could be about rape. It can be about incest. It can be about drug addiction. Those kind of help books. Christians deal with that as much as people who aren't. They have children who are in drugs. They've been victims of childhood sexual molestation. I have at age 12. Uh, I went for years thinking nobody else ever experienced this. I didn't know who to talk to. And we need to let people know, hey, there are a bunch of people that the Lord has brought through those kinds of things. Okay. Now, the other thing is that I have a lot of Christian writers who do not write Christian, quote Christian books, but they write books that have strong moral themes. Or maybe they have a book with some kind of nasty people in there, but they have a preacher or a judge or somebody who is a moral person, that so people can see the difference, that this person doesn't act like these people. I struggle with what I call whitewashed Christian literature. I'm a Vietnam veteran. If I saw a guy that had his legs blown off, laying on the ground, he wouldn't be saying, oh my, will you look what happened? Where'd my legs go? Oh, gee whiz, golly. No, I mean, he's going to be screaming. He may say some language that we don't particularly like, but you got to make your characters real. So if you're going to write a book like that, I tell people you can glorify that kind of thing in your book, or you can use it very sparingly to let people know, hey, this person is, has a problem. But yeah, we've got to be real. So what I'm interested in first is the person a Christian. Now, after that, whether it's children's books, whether it's fantasy, whether it's sci-fi, whether it's cozy mysteries, all those kind of things, it doesn't matter to me, okay? Because I know that that person is going to write the kind of book that's going to have things in there that they cannot say because it's coming from their heart. Again, long answer, short question.
No, that's good. Jan and Melissa, do either of you have any questions or anything that you would like to add?
Well, it brought up a curiosity of mine. I don't know. There are a lot of people who are leaving Facebook and not doing as much on it as authors because of information being given away to other, third parties and all. And a lot of people, when they're going to launch their book, have depended on platforms like Facebook and the others for those things. And I wonder if LinkedIn groups would be a good place for like authors who are looking to create a group for like their book launches or things like that.
So you're asking me if LinkedIn gives away the information?
Oh, well, if it's a good place, if that would be something an author could consider creating, like
Well,
maybe a group for a launch team there.
yeah, I highly promote it, okay, because yes, the answer to your question is yes, LinkedIn's an appropriate place. LinkedIn has rules. They get rid of people that put offensive stuff on there. If you go on LinkedIn today, you'll see in the feeds, at least in mine, there's a lot of Facebook that's crept in. There's none of that. Here's what I had for breakfast, with a half-eaten pancake and whatever, it's not to that point. But but there's worthwhile things like I saw one the other day, a Black lady put on, here's my grandfather who's 74, just got a degree as a doctor, and things like that. So LinkedIn is good. They're owned by Microsoft. And so, they're very professional. If you do see something on LinkedIn, like Facebook, they do want to know about it. And so you can block that person or you can report that person. And I did one the other day and they came back and they didn't agree with me that because it was about guns and basically told me that if I didn't have umpteen guns in my house, that I was racist or something like that. And so I said, hey, that's not right. So I reported it to LinkedIn. LinkedIn came back and said, in the strictest sense, they did not violate any rules. But they said to me, you're in control of what you see. So block that person, and that's why we have those things on there. So I think they're very in tune with what they're doing.
Good to know. We do have another question in the chat. Leslie came and asked, can you use LinkedIn for creating a beta readers group to read your books and then use as a launch group? If so, should it be a separate group or all part of your larger group? And do we need to create separate groups for separate things?
It's a good question.
Mhm.
I have two groups on LinkedIn. One I just started called 2414. And even though I have the kind of people I'm looking for in my Christian community, I don't want to mix that up. What I'm looking for in 2414 are people who have been called to preach, but because of age, disability, burnout, churches that have hurt them deeply, they feel like they're on the shelf. They still have the call to share the gospel, but they don't have any way to do it. And so I want to teach those people how to use Zoom and videos and things like that so that they can have an online ministry so that they feel like they're still usable. Okay. So that's a very Christian endeavor, but I don't want to mix up what I'm doing with the Christian authors community. So I would say that if you want to launch your book in your group, but you don't want anybody else to launch their book in that group because you don't want to get that, I say, turmoil started, then you need to start another group as your launch group. As far as beta readers, no problem. I have a beta readers group on my online community outside of LinkedIn because it's very important. So you can go after what you want to go after, but you got to be very, very careful in that if a person doesn't want to be a beta reader, they feel like there's something wrong with them, or they're being left out of the group, or people don't, because people have they come from different places and different things hurt them. And so you don't want to alienate them. So what you might do is say, I'm looking for a group of beta readers, contact me privately in Messenger, and then you can work out the details of however you want to do it with them.
Do you use Premium?
I have, but so far I don't anymore. It wasn't worth it to me.
They talk about Premium, but it has always been a little bit vague to me what it offers and if it's worth it.
The main thing about Premium, I think, is that you can have in-mails. So you can send a message to a person who you're not connected with to bring them in. But in the free version of LinkedIn, when you're inviting a person, when you want to make a connection, you can still see their profile and everything, so you can make a decision. But when you send them the connection, you can click on note and you can type a little note. I would like to connect with you for this reason. The reason that's so valuable is when they come back and say, yes, I'd like to connect with you, you know that's a quality connection that's interested in what you're interested in. So you can basically do a lot without Premium that you can with Premium. And so I just didn't see the benefit.
That was kind of my sense, but I wasn't sure if I was missing something because I hadn't tried it.
Well, I don't know that. I mean, I always figure I'm missing something. But maybe I don't want to know about it enough to not miss it because it might interfere with other things that's most important. I mean,
Yeah.
I walk away from stuff all the time that's very tempting. Yeah, that looks good. But no, this is my main focus. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, maybe there are some other people attending here that have used premium and can speak a little about their experience if they want to. It's about 10 minutes up, and if you're good, we can invite people to come back on and ask their questions live if you'd like.
Sure. Let me say one thing real quick.
Sure.
YouTube is the greatest university in the internet or in the universe. I'm sure that there's a ton of videos on there about premium and pros and cons. So that's a good research platform.
That is, thank you. Good tip. All right, if everybody would like to come back on, come and join us, we can discuss a little bit more. And if you have more questions, you can ask Tom directly. I know this has been great so far. LinkedIn is one of those things that I always keep, and I have kind of used it as my online resume to speak, but I haven't used it anywhere near as much as I should. And I want to remedy that. And I think that there are a lot of others of us out here that feel the same way about LinkedIn.
I appreciate you saying that because most of the authors I work with, they're on Facebook, Twitter. I got rid of Twitter about 2 months ago. I had nearly 10,000 followers on there, but I couldn't tell that anybody was following me.
Mm. Yep.
And most of the people that are on there don't want me to direct mail them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I just thought, no, I don't need it anymore.
It does
But-
make you wonder what good a social media platform is where you don't have that.
Well, here's the thing that you got to ask yourself about social media. Actually, at this point, there's about 250 million platforms. Or not 250 million, 250.
Yes.
But we know about Facebook and we know about Instagram and we know about Twitter, and because they're the big guys, they've been around the longest, but they're not the same. Every one of them has their own purpose.
Mm.
And so Goodreads, the purpose is to draw readers. Amazon owns them because they're going to send them to Amazon to buy the books. Okay. LinkedIn's main thing is we want to help you find good employees, and you can get their resume and stuff on here. That's their main thing. I don't know. You just have to figure out what the platform is, and is it something that you can benefit from? And if not, don't use them. You don't. Nobody gets mad at me because I'm not on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody cared that I was on Twitter to begin with. Okay.
Twitter seems to be a very closed environment too.
Well, I guess so. You know, remember high school and the cliques?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly what it reminds me of. Yep. Yep. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you would like to share? This has been great information so far.
I'm still here. I apologize. My camera stopped.
Oh
You
dear.
broke
Well, we
your
can hear
camera.
you.
I did.
Jan,
Leslie says, you mentioned about the gun topic being flagged on LinkedIn. Have you seen any censoring about topics in your group in LinkedIn? She says, we are in a time when a lot of Christian or conservative views are being censored. Is this happening in LinkedIn? What I write is from a strong Christian view. I'm trying to find a right place to not be censored.
I haven't seen any censorship. I see a lot of scripture because I deal mainly with Christian people. So I see a lot of things like that. And as far as I know, LinkedIn, they certainly haven't censored anything that I've done, but Facebook didn't either. So I don't know where all that's coming from. You know, I'm not saying it's misinformation, but it could be in part misinformation. I don't know. I mean, let's face it, there are, I don't know, a couple billion people in the world that claim to be Christians. And that's a lot of people for them to alienate. So I'm just saying, I don't know.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it.
I've had pretty good success posting my blog on LinkedIn, and I just blog one day a week, but there's Christian content, and I've gotten quite a bit of interaction on LinkedIn that I do not get on Facebook. So,
Interesting.
mhm.
I hesitate to say this, but it's true. I probably already said it. I think the people on LinkedIn are more serious about what they're doing than any other platform that I'm on, other than maybe Goodreads. They're just more serious, yeah.
It definitely has the reputation of garnering the professionals.
Right. And I know a lot of people that are on LinkedIn that used to be on Facebook because they want more seriousness. Facebook to me is my playground. I have family, friends, grandkids, all that kind of stuff on there. A lot of authors join me, but I don't post it much about being an author or anything. I love photography. I do a lot of that, sayings and stuff. But yeah,
I also had an instance where I was contacted. They had someone do headhunting for them. It was a local company, but they needed some editing work, and they contacted me through LinkedIn. So that was interesting, just to have that happen. It was a local company, but yet they were looking for an editor and doing it through LinkedIn.
yep.
I've
They have
experienced a similar thing with LinkedIn as well. Yep.
They have their go-to places. I get questions all the time, that can you help me find an editor or an illustrator, or, and I do that. I connect with them.
Mhm.
And then I bring them into my community. So
I know.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
Yvonne, you're muted if you have something you'd like to share. There you are.
There, yes. Using the iPad as opposed to my laptop, it's like, where do I look? Where do I find something? I wanted to ask, Candy mentioned posting her blog post on LinkedIn. The whole thing, or a link and a graphic, or part of it?
I post a picture, and often I try to use one of my pictures rather than a stock photo.
Right.
And I say maybe I either ask a question or put one sentence and then a link to the blog. And then I use hashtags to identify various things within the blog that people connect with. And I research those hashtags to see whether they have a following or not, because some of them sound like they would be great to post with my blog, but yet when I research it, there are only 150 followers for that particular hashtag. So I do a good bit of work, and there's certain ones that I use every week, and I keep those saved and just, copy and add those each time. But as I said, I've really had a lot more success posting on LinkedIn than I have on Facebook.
you can also count on LinkedIn to recommend hashtags. I mean, they'll promote hashtags.
Yes.
Because this artificial intelligence is unbelievable stuff, because it can read what you're putting there and come up with hashtags that maybe you don't even think about. But you can write articles. You can put the whole blog on. Personally, I think the best thing with blogs is to have your blog as part of your website and bring them with a link to your website, to your blog, because then you have the opportunity that they might poke around other blog articles and might stumble across other things that you would like for them to know. So yeah, you can put it all on LinkedIn if you want to, but I think a blog on your website and bringing people to your site is the best thing to do there.
Another thing I've discovered is if I go back in, like maybe the next day, and put what I have as a tweet on my post, if I put that in the comment section on LinkedIn, then again, it kind of boosts it and more people see it for the next couple of days.
One of the strategies that I do is that when I put up a post, and I may share a post, it doesn't matter if I share it or write it myself or whatever. I look at every person who interacts with that post, whether it's a like or a comment or whatever, because there's a lot of people who see that are not connected to me. And maybe I want to be connected to them. And so I try not to waste anything. I look at their profile, and if it's somebody that I'm interested in, then I go back and I will actually link a message to them that shows them what they like, so that, you know, they might like 1,000 things in a week, but I want them to see what they liked that I posted. And I can say then, I like what I appreciate the fact that you liked my post. What did you like about it? Or what attracted you to it? Or what spoke to you? You know, whatever it takes to get a conversation going. And asking questions is good. How, when, why, where, and who, I think. But if you ask single answer questions, do you like asparagus? No, you're done. If you say,
Is it-
why do you like asparagus? Then you may be able
Yes.
to get something.
Ask open answered questions, right? Yes.
Open-ended, that's right.
Open-ended, that's what it is. And I'm like, I got that quite wrong, but it was around there.
You were in the neighborhood. You did
In the
well.
neighborhood, yeah, my
We
brain does
knew.
that on a regular basis, and I'm glad people can follow me anyway. Now, one thing that I noticed that there is now that there didn't used to be, and we are getting to the top of the hour, so we are going to have to close, but I wanted to ask you this one question before we did close. And I see that there is the option to follow somebody or connect with them. Which is better? What are the benefits of one versus the other?
Okay, if I understand it correctly now, if you connect with them, you're automatically following them. So that means you're going to see their post.
Okay.
If you follow them and don't connect, you're going to see their post, but you're not going to have a connection with them.
Okay. Why should you have the connection versus just follow?
Well, maybe you like what they write, but you don't like what they stand for. I don't know. I mean, I'm just, you know, I don't want to be a part of what you're doing, but all truth is God's truth. And there's enough truth in what you write that I can pick it out, you know. And so I might follow you.
So if I followed you, I would see your post, but you would not see mine, I'm guessing. But if we connected, we would see each other's?
Yes.
Okay.
But
So
now
that's
I would see if you reacted to a post.
Okay.
If you liked it or commented or something.
Yes.
I would
Okay.
see it
So
then.
that's probably one of the bigger distinctions then, is you would see each other's information versus only one way.
Right.
Okay. We are to the top of the hour, so we are going to close. But before we do, I wanted to share that next week our show is on website basics with Rhonda Dragomir. So always something to go through. She's really great at setting up websites, so that should be a very good show. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will have the replay available. I will put that in the event on Facebook, and it will be up on YouTube for others to watch for as long as YouTube exists or Serious Writer does. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
I'd like to
Thank you,
tell you,
Tom.
you're welcome. I'd like to see or tell you that putting your recordings on YouTube works, because I have a client that came to me because he saw me on a previous program that you posted. And so I thought, all right. So thanks for advertising for me.
Oh, so glad.
Thank
to
you,
hear.
Tom, for coming.
You're welcome.